Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour, the External Affairs Minister S.Jaishankar meets his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi in Manila, pushes for fair market access and balanced trade. ASEAN foreign ministers discuss maritime tensions with China and the protection of supply chains against overlapping geopolitical crises. President Draupadi Murmu calls for expanding ties with North Macedonia, says stronger business links unlock new opportunities for both countries. US President Donald Trump renews Iran threat, says US will strike Iran infrastructure if ships attacked in Hormuz Strait. And the US unveils phased plan for 200% tariffs on imported generic drugs by 2029. First up, US President Donald Trump has renewed his threats to attack Iranian infrastructure. He has said that the US will attack a bridge or power plant each time Tehran targets a ship in the Strait of Hormuz. Now, the US and Iran have intensified attacks as an interim ceasefire agreement signed last month has unraveled, and a struggle for control of the Strait of Hormuz has deepened, raising the risk of a return to all-out hostilities. TD India's Mohammad Absarul Hassan has more.
The war with Iran has already cost the United States around $37.5 billion, an increase of nearly $8 billion since the last estimated in May. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth informed the Senate about the rising cost of the conflict and urged lawmakers to approve not only the supplemental funding request but also the $1.5 trillion defense budget proposal for 2027.
Our army was built to try to create conventional capabilities to defend against a pursuit of nuclear weapons, which meant thousands of ballistic missiles, many of which we have destroyed, others of which they have put inside facilities and hidden in underground facilities. The estimate we have as of today is $37.5 billion.
However, amid the escalating military confrontation, Washington has also kept the door open for diplomacy. Speaking to the media on the sidelines of the ASEAN summit, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the United States remains committed to resolving tensions with Iran through diplomatic efforts.
Once again, the United States is always committed to diplomacy. We are open-minded and always willing to engage in negotiated settlements of differences.
But on the ground, the conflict continues to intensify. The U.S. military has completed its 11th consecutive day of strikes on Iran, targeting Iranian military operation centers, maritime capabilities, aircraft hangars, and drone storage facilities. Explosions were reported in the southeastern coastal city of Chabahar and Konark, while blasts were also heard in Bushehr. Amid continued strikes, U.S. President Donald Trump has warned that the Washington military campaign against Iran was not yet over. He renewed his threat to attack Iranian infrastructures, saying the U.S. would attack a bridge or power plant each time Tehran targets a ship in the Strait of Hormuz.
If we left today, it would take them decades to rebuild, and I don't believe they could ever rebuild. And honestly, they haven't seen anything yet.
Iran, meanwhile, has also responded with attacks on U.S. interests in the region. Tehran targeted American military sites in Bahrain, Kuwait, and Jordan, while a tanker was hit in the Strait of Hormuz, a key global energy route. Iran's Revolutionary Guard claimed responsibility for a strike on U.S.-linked facility in Jordan. The conflict has also widened its impact on the global trade energy security. Two oil tankers carrying Saudi crude to Asia changed course in the Red Sea, following threats from Yemen's Iran-allied Houthi. The Revolutionary Guard also claimed that the two tankers passing were hit by explosions, triggering fires and forcing them to stop. With tensions spreading across key maritime routes, global oil markets have reacted sharply. Brent crude prices surged above $95 per barrel, rising over 4% as concerns grew over disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz and the Red Sea. With both diplomacy and military action continued side by side, the Iran conflict remains a major threat to regional stability, global energy security, and international markets. Mohammad Absarul Hassan for DD India.
From one conflict to another, the Ukraine-Russia conflict continues despite repeated attempts at brokering a peace deal. The latest being another Russian attack on an energy facility in Ukraine. It was allegedly in response to a Ukraine offensive on Russia's major retailer Wildfires, striking at the heart of Russia's consumer economy. DD India's Shubhra Singh reports.
In a fresh round of attacks, Russia targeted Ukraine's energy facility in northern Chernihiv region, leaving over 100,000 consumers without power. The attacks were in response to Ukraine's offensive on two major warehouses of Russia's major retailer Wildfires, injuring several people and extending a campaign of drone strikes against a company at the heart of Russia's consumer economy. This comes amid the news of meeting Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and US Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Manila on Thursday, where both will discuss the war in Ukraine on the sidelines of ASEAN summit.
As for President Trump's prediction that a settlement in Ukraine is drawing closer, tomorrow I will ask Marco Rubio about that, especially since he himself commented on the outcome of Anchorage in a rather ambiguous manner. In any case, this meeting will be useful because it is always better to ask questions directly and receive answers firsthand.
Confirming the news, Rubio said that US remains open and willing to play a constructive role in bringing that war to an end if that opportunity presents itself.
Obviously, the war in Ukraine, I think, has in many ways impeded the ability of Russia and the United States to find areas of agreement on other topics. That doesn't mean we won't seek to find other areas of potential cooperation. But by the same token, we'd like to see that war come to an end. We think it would be good for Russia if that war came to an end. So we'll raise it. And as I said, the U.S. remains open and willing to play a constructive role in bringing that war to an end if that opportunity presents itself. And it might, we're open to it, to playing that role, because we think right now, and I think the Russians would agree, we're probably the only country in the world that can play that role in trying to bring that to an end.
Meanwhile, continuing the regime reshuffle, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky replaced Andriy Natov with Major General Ihor Skybevich as the new head of Ukraine's general staff. Earlier on Tuesday, President Zelensky named a young Major General Mikhailo Drapety as the next commander-in-chief of Ukraine's military, replacing Alexander Syrsky.
I have decided that Mikhailo Drapety will become the new commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Ukraine. Together with Mikhailo, Yevgeny Kamara and Pavlo Palisa, we determined how the general staff of the armed forces of Ukraine should be reconfigured. It is a fact that Alexander Syrsky delivered results for Ukraine in the defense of Kyiv, the Kharkiv offensive, and the Kursk operation. We have come a long way. Ukraine's defense continues, and every warrior must be treated with dignity. I am grateful to Alexander Syrsky and to every one of our warriors for Ukraine's strong positions on the front. I am grateful to Mikhailo Drapety for sharing this vision.
While US tries to keep up with its role of peace mediator, the Russia-Ukraine tussle does not seem to stop anytime soon. The new commander-in-chief of Ukraine's armed forces said he had been tasked with stepping up counter-offensive actions and launching new operations inside Russia. Shubhra Singh's report for DD India.
The 59th ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting is underway in Manila. It brings together top diplomats from Southeast Asia and key global powers amid growing geopolitical tensions. With the South China Sea, the West Asia crisis, and regional security dominating the agenda, leaders are calling for greater cooperation to tackle shared challenges.
His Royal Highness Excellencies, distinct.
Hosted by the Philippines, the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting has brought together representatives from the United States, China, India, Japan, Russia, South Korea, Canada, and other partner nations to discuss regional and global security concerns. Maritime tensions in the South China Sea remain a key focus following the recent confrontation between Chinese and Philippine vessels.
The incident involving the members of the Philippines Navy and the Chinese personnel, we have said we have real concerns about behaviour that is destabilising and risky.
The countries concerned are not parties to the South China Sea issue and have no right to interfere in maritime matter between the countries directly involved. Anyone can see that whenever there is the slightest stir at sea, it is always the same small handful of countries that rush out with great fanfare to oppose China without bothering to distinguish right from wrong.
Discussion also covered the ongoing conflict in Myanmar, regional economic resilience, and energy security amid renewed hostilities in West Asia. Japan pledged deeper engagement with ASEAN in security, technology, and disaster management, while South Korea announced new initiatives in artificial intelligence and cultural cooperation. Russia reaffirmed its support for ASEAN's central role in regional affairs, and Canada called for de-escalation in West Asia while backing international law in the South China Sea.
Russia firmly believes that ASEAN is a reliable and like-minded partner. For our part, we consistently support ASEAN's central role in all regional affairs and make our contribution to strengthening the system of interstate relations built around the association.
On the sidelines of the summit, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio met counterparts from India, Japan, Australia, and South Korea. Rubio also met Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi for high-level talks. While India's External Affairs Minister met with Chinese counterpart Wang Yi, Jaishankar highlighted the importance of secure maritime trade and stronger regional cooperation.
We believe that a stable and cooperative relationship can best be developed on the basis of mutual respect, mutual interest, and mutual security. Such a relationship can make a valuable contribution to a multipolar Asia and a multipolar world.
Ministers are reviewing proposals under the ASEAN Community Vision 2045 with recommendations set to be presented to regional leaders at the upcoming ASEAN Summit. Ravindra Chauhan's report for DD India.
External Affairs Minister S.Jaishankar participated in an ASEAN meeting in Manila on Wednesday in the backdrop of the Iran war and disruptions to global supply chains. In his opening remarks, Minister Jaishankar warned Southeast Asian partners that the world had become extremely turbulent and that no single nation could tackle such challenges alone. He participated in a Quad Foreign Ministers meeting where they reaffirmed the commitment for a free and open Indo-Pacific. DD India's Raghav Kumar Jha has more.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S.Jaishankar has said that in this era of volatility and disruption, the most visible stress is on supply chains. In his opening remarks at ASEAN Post-Ministerial Conference with India 2026 in Manila, Philippines, Dr. Jaishankar said that energy, food and health security can no longer be taken for granted.
In this era of volatility and disruption, the most visible stress is on supply chains. Energy, food, and health security can no longer be taken for granted. Because we are all so dependent on maritime trade, that too could become a source of anxiety. Observing international law in that regard is therefore vital.
Dr. Jaishankar warned Southeast Asian partners on Wednesday that the world has become extremely turbulent and that no single nation could tackle such challenges alone.
The world is extremely turbulent, and it is increasingly evident that no single nation or even grouping can deal with it on its own.
External Affairs Minister said that both India and ASEAN are optimistic about their prospects and therefore the focus should be on opportunities even while addressing challenges. Dr. Jaishankar noted that this year is the ASEAN India Year of Maritime Cooperation, and it is a timely reminder of the progress ASEAN and India can make together towards a more stable and secure future. External Affairs Minister Dr. S.Jaishankar also participated in Quad Foreign Ministers meeting at Manila. In a joint statement, India, Japan, Australia, and United States reaffirmed the commitment to strengthen a free and open Indo-Pacific and unwavering support for ASEAN unity and centrality. Key discussion areas included maritime and transnational security, economic prosperity, critical and emerging technologies, and emergency response. On the sidelines of the meeting, Dr. Jaishankar met US Secretary of State Marco Rubio. The minister said that the meeting focused on areas which are priority for the India-US Comprehensive Global Strategic Partnership, including trade, tariffs, energy, defense, security, critical minerals, and artificial intelligence. External Affairs Minister also met his Australian counterpart, Penny Wong. Dr. Jaishankar said that he followed up on the outcomes of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's recent visit to Australia. During the meeting with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov, Dr. Jaishankar raised strong concern regarding the safety of Indian seafarers in the region. Their discussion focused on various aspects of India-Russia partnership. Both sides also exchanged views on the Ukraine conflict and the Gulf situation. Raghav Kumar Jha's report for DD India.
The Quad Foreign Ministers meeting in Manila reaffirmed the group's commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific. In a joint statement on cooperation with ASEAN, the Quad Foreign Ministers expressed unwavering support for ASEAN unity and centrality. The joint statement read, and I quote, "As ASEAN comprehensive strategic partners, we are deeply invested in the region's success and in cooperating with ASEAN and its member states. We discussed regional challenges and opportunities to strengthen our support for the practical implementation of the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific through our shared priorities of maritime and transnational security, economic prosperity and security, critical and emerging technologies, and humanitarian assistance and emergency response. We are united in our conviction that peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific maritime domain underpin the security and prosperity of the region," unquote. And joining us for more about India and the Indo-Pacific is Ambassador Gurjeet Singh. Ambassador Singh is a former Indian envoy to Indonesia, Timor-Leste and ASEAN, besides Germany, Ethiopia, Djibouti and the African Union. He joins us from Greater Noida. Ambassador Singh, welcome to DD India News Hour. Now, in his opening remarks to the ASEAN meeting in Manila, Minister Jaishankar focused on global disruptions. Now, he said that energy, food and health security can no longer be taken for granted. Now, as Southeast Asian nations face intense economic pressure to choose between the US and Chinese supply ecosystems, can India offer an alternative to help ASEAN de-risk and diversify its trade networks?
Thank you, Mr. Ramachandran, for having me.
Welcome.
Yes, it is a very warm statement by the EAM. I think it touched on all the important issues in a brief statement. Important point is that we are in transition. And are we able to manage that transition without suffering too much harm? You asked the right question, that when we want to be wary of the United States and China, are we able to manage relations among ourselves? And that is the entire thesis of my book. India and ASEAN need to do much more together without depending on the big powers. So we need to find ways to do that. Three things were mentioned by Dr. Jaishankar: energy security, health security, and food security. Now, where health and energy are concerned, since the pandemic, health and food are concerned, since the pandemic, India has been more or less the go-to partner for health security and food security by ASEAN member states.
Right.
Now comes energy security. Energy, we are both dependent on getting this imports. So how do we manage this? One aspect is we should both work together to build on alternative energy sources, be they solar, tidal, wind, biomass, and others. And can we work together? Because I don't think either of us has got surplus oil or energy which we can do. But yes, we can work together to protect the sea lanes. So the ASEAN today, ministers yesterday, issued a separate statement on the West Asia crisis.
Right.
And they are saying, please protect the sea lanes, don't put us in bad times, and try and come to a peace as early as possible. That is said rather optimistically with pessimism written all over it.
Indeed. Ambassador Singh, the Quad Foreign Ministers meeting took place immediately following another dangerous naval clash between Chinese and Philippine vessels near the second Thomas Shoal. Now, given that Manila is hosting ASEAN talks, how effectively you think can India leverage its designated year of maritime cooperation with ASEAN to reassure Indo-Pacific nations about their security concerns?
Okay, so I think it is very important that the Quad foreign ministers met again in a short while after the meeting in May in New Delhi. At this time on the sidelines of the ASEAN meetings, and that too in Manila, who is a close strategic partner of all the Quad member states. You are right that Manila is facing the Chinese heat much more than any other ASEAN member state. So I think all of us who are its strategic partners need to stand with it more. I think India, besides providing it the BrahMos, has also been doing more exercises with it. The Japanese and Australians have enhanced their strategic cooperation. So I think all of us are treating Manila as a test case where the rest of ASEAN will be shown that India in particular and the Quad in general are reliable strategic partners.
Right. Let's talk about two other important meetings that took place on the margins of that ASEAN meeting as well, Ambassador. Now, during his separate meeting with his Chinese counterpart, Minister Jaishankar reiterated that stable India-China ties are essential to building a multipolar Asia. But border tensions and regional competition continue to simmer. So the question is, where do both countries go from here?
Indeed, I think Dr. Jaishankar said the three mutuals, mutual respect, mutual integrity, those are very key. We cannot wish them away. The Chinese would wish to carry on the relationship as if nothing has happened in 2020. And I don't think that is feasible for India. If you look at all the meetings Dr. Jaishankar had today, the Chinese meeting was the only formal one across tables with delegations. If you see the pictures of all the other meetings he had with his counterpart, they are rather informal, one-to-one chats with people with whom you are on the same page. So this is evident that with China, we are not on the same page. And we need to come on the same page. That is why the EAM saying that a multipolar world requires India and China to work together. I think these are noble thoughts. The problem is that when we say this is an Asian century and there's space for everybody, the Chinese believe the Asian century is a Chinese century and they don't want space for anybody else. Till that dichotomy is settled, I don't think this relationship will reach further maturity.
Indeed. And finally, Ambassador, Russia. Now, Minister Jaishankar conveyed India's strong concern regarding the safety of Indian seafarers in the region to Minister Lavrov, following the recent tragic deaths of 4 Indian sailors in a Russian strike near Ukraine. Now, how do you assess New Delhi's ties with Moscow? Do they remain as strong as ever?
I think India-Russia relationship is strong. It has certain strong elements in it. It is not a fulsome relationship. It is an element-based relationship. On that, we remain strong. At the same time, I think the fact that today they have also, like the Americans and the Iranians, shot at ships having Indian crew members and made Indians die is something which annoys us terribly.
Right.
And I think, therefore, it became inevitable that Dr. Jaishankar would meet Sergei Lavrov. Perhaps had this killing of Indian sailors not happened, I'm not certain Manila would be the location of an India-Russia ballot on the sidelines of ASEAN. It is not a usual meeting. So the fact that this meeting was held meant that we wanted to convey our strong disapproval of Russia on undertaking this. So I think Russia is backpedaling and saying we will talk to the Indians, but they're also saying that they'll continue to attack ships which carry out contraband in their eyes. So that leaves Indians at a disadvantage, because in any kind of shipping in the world, there are Indian sailors. How are we going to protect them when countries take harsh action against civilian shipping? This is a new reality that we have to face with.
Absolutely. I'm afraid that's all we have time for, Ambassador. We'll have to leave it at that. May I thank you for joining us and sharing your thoughts, your perspectives with our viewers. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Right, moving on, U.S. President Donald Trump has said that all generic drugs being brought into the U.S. will continue having a tariff of 0% for 2 years, starting 1st August, after which the tariff will be raised to 100% for 1 year and 200% thereafter. In a post on Truth Social, he said that this is being done in order to bring generic pharmaceutical production back into the U.S., with a penalty to those companies that decide not to build plant and equipment within the time period given to them. Severe wildfires have gripped both France and Spain as firefighters are working to contain the blazes. A major wildfire tore through wooded hillsides in southeastern France, leaving behind a trail of destruction across the region. The blaze started on Tuesday and burned through around 2,500 hectares of vegetation, prompting evacuation of around 300 to 400 people in the Var department. Meanwhile, authorities have asked people to refrain from barbecue, claiming that out of 10, 9 fires are a result of human activity. Meanwhile, Spain's central Guadalajara province faced one of the worst wildfires of the year, damaging an estimated 32,000 hectares in the region. The severity prompted immediate evacuations in 34 municipalities and confinement orders in 14 others. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, who visited the impacted region on Wednesday, said Spain had already suffered 22 major wildfires this year, adding that it prompted evacuation of over 1,200 residents.
We have already suffered 22 major wildfires. 22 major wildfires, to put that into perspective, compared with the last year, we are talking about 4 times as many. 4 times as many major wildfires as we had at this point last year.
At least 20 people have been killed and dozens injured after devastating flash floods swept through northeastern Afghanistan. Taliban authorities say that around 100 people remain missing, raising fears that the death toll could rise further. The worst hit area is Parun, the capital of Nuristan province, where rescue teams are continuing search operations. Afghanistan remains one of the countries most vulnerable to climate change, with extreme weather and widespread deforestation intensifying the impact of flash floods. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Wednesday chaired a high-level meeting with secretaries to review progress of rural development, agriculture, social welfare and allied sectors towards the Viksit Bharat goals at his residence in New Delhi. The Prime Minister said that reforms designed around people's needs should gather real momentum and deliver meaningful transformation. He emphasized that the objective of reforms is not merely to improve the functioning of the government, but to accelerate India's journey towards becoming a developed nation. The Prime Minister suggested undertaking a comprehensive mapping of emerging requirements across various ministries and departments, stressing the need for a whole-of-government approach to achieve the nation's development goals. He further emphasized that the dream to build a Viksit Bharat should become a Jan Andolan or people's movement, and that India's youth should form the foundation of this vision. He further emphasized the need to adopt an integrated approach for the development of sports. The meeting was marked by comprehensive and productive discussions across the sectors, focusing on effective implementation, greater convergence, and accelerated progress towards the goals of Viksit Bharat. Still to come on DD India News Hour. An expert take on the commissioning of India's newest indigenous anti-submarine warship.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. India on Wednesday commissioned the INS Malwan warship. It's the second of the indigenously designed and built Mahi-class anti-submarine warfare shallow watercraft. With over 80% indigenous content, the warship reinforces the government's self-reliant India campaign and adds a significant punch to the Indian Navy's anti-submarine warfare capabilities.
The Indian Navy commissioned the Indian naval ship Malwan, the second of the indigenously designed and built Mahi-class anti-submarine warfare shallow water craft at Karwar Naval Base in Karnataka on Wednesday. The event was presided over by Chief of Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal A.P. Singh, along with Vice Admiral Sanjay Vatsayan, Flag Officer Commanding-in-Chief, Western Naval Command. Addressing the gathering on the occasion, the Chief of Air Staff highlighted Navy's impressive growth and its commitment to the Atmanirbhar or Self-Reliant India initiative. Vice Admiral Sanjay Vatsayan emphasized that the warship is built with over 80% indigenous content.
And I'm very happy that the way our the indigenous infrastructure is growing in terms of R&D, in terms of production. There is a big impetus which has been given.
Today marks another significant milestone in India's maritime journey. The commissioning of Malwan, second of the 8 anti-submarine warfare shallow water craft being constructed by Cochin Shipyard Limited with over 80% indigenous content, is yet another testimony to India's growing self-reliance in defense manufacturing. Also, Malwan becomes the first Indian naval ship to be commissioned at Karwar.
The ASW-SWC project reinforces India's expanding ecosystem of naval design, equipment and system integration. Malwan epitomizes India's Atmanirbhar Bharat vision in modern naval shipbuilding and design with over 80% indigenous content. The vessel is equipped with underwater surveillance, anti-submarine warfare operations and low-intensity maritime operations along with mine warfare capability. Malwan embodies agility, precision and endurance, qualities essential to detect and counter underwater threats. With the ability to operate seamlessly with larger surface combatants, submarines and aviation assets, induction of INS Malwan enables the Indian Navy to remain combat-ready, credible, cohesive and future-ready to ensure national security and safeguard India's maritime interests at all times and all locations. Bureau Report, DD India.
And joining us is Major General Dr. S.B. Asthana, retired. General Asthana is a former Director General Infantry in the Indian Army. He joins us from New Delhi. General, welcome to DD India News Hour. Let's start with the wider strategic theatre. The Indian Ocean is rapidly crowding. China is aggressively expanding its naval fleet. How significantly does the introduction of the INS Malwan alter the undersea balance of power, General?
It is very important, as you rightly mentioned, and you rightly pointed out, that China is increasing its navy. In terms of numbers, it has exceeded the American Navy too. And one of the major strong points of Chinese Navy is the submarine part of it. And their submarines are moving all over the world, and more so in Indian Ocean. So when we are looking at the submarine part, then certainly we have to look at the undersea capabilities. And if you see and study the modern warfare, which are the wars which are going on, you will find that the low-cost arsenal, whether it is in terms of drones or it is in terms of the boats turned as drones, and the mine warfare capability, they have been much more important than the major arsenal which the countries had. Like none of the Americans' warships, that is any major warship, could ever enter Strait of Hormuz over even after 4.5 months. So this is the kind of warship which we need in a manner that it is a anti-submarine warfare and a shallow water craft which has maneuverability. Its smaller size gives a fair amount of maneuverability, and therefore it can cover a lot of blind spots which you have in the area, in the coastal area, which is important. Also, we need the information. We also need Chinese submarines not to get very close to us, and that too at a lower cost. So this meets all those requirements. It has fair amount of arsenal, but then most of the arsenal is a low-cost one. So it's a low-cost option, suiting our budget, meeting our requirement, operational requirement, as well as achieving the maritime domain awareness in an area that is in the subsurface level, which is very important. And I must highlight the indigenous part of it, that in 2026, we had INS Mahendragiri, we had Dunagiri, we had Taragiri, and there are a whole lot of other, I think, crafts which are about to be commissioned in 2026. There are some more lined up for both sides, that is the eastern side as well as on the western side. So I think it's a very good development which India should be proud of.
We'll talk about indigenous content in just a bit, General. Since you refer to the Strait of Hormuz, I have to ask you this. If we were to look at the map of the wider Indo-Pacific region as a whole, what specific message does it send regarding India's defensive grid in the critical choke points of the Indo-Pacific?
It does give a fair amount of lessons to us in a manner that what is the Strait of Hormuz to Iran is also Strait of Malacca in some manner, may not be to that degree, to India. In a manner that we have Nicobar Islands quite close to the Malacca Strait. At the same time, certain developments which we have done, strategic developments, in terms of getting some ports on the southern side also. The northern side is looked after by the Nicobar. On the southern side also, along with Indonesia, we are developing some kind of bases, not I would say bases, some kind of ports which are being developed, which can be used through the mutual agreements which we have done. So certainly it gives you a capability, and the traffic going through Malacca Strait is no less than Strait of Hormuz, number one. Number two, the major traffic is of Chinese. So therefore, I think when it comes to the warfare, and during war, Iran has demonstrated that there are no limits. See, whether it is America or it is Iran, both have violated UNCLOS 3, both have done activities which go against the international laws, and therefore, when it comes to defending your territory, maybe that you get into the war mode and these choke points can be very strategically relevant to you, and therefore you need to develop those capabilities, which I think our country is doing. We are developing Nicobar Island in the manner in which it should be. So I think there are a fair amount of lessons which we need to learn from the other side. Also, the way in the Strait of Hormuz, the low-cost boats have been used, and that is what the point which I was trying to highlight, that low-cost boats were used by Iranians and they were found very effective. And that was one of the major deterrents why a major ship of USA could not enter the Strait of Hormuz.
Right. And finally, General, coming to the indigenization dimension of the issue at hand. Now, a prominent feature of this commissioning is the ship's over 80% indigenous engineering content under the Self-Reliant India campaign. Now, given the global fragility of military supply chains highlighted by the recent geopolitical conflicts which you referred to, how close is India to achieving true maritime defense autonomy?
It will take some time, because when we say 80% content, that means 80% content means certain critical technology we still have to import, and we are dependent on certain countries. So long we remain dependent on certain countries, there will be pressures of the supply chain disruptions depending upon the geopolitical situation. But notwithstanding that, I think India is working very hard on it. And even those critical components, we will be finding answers. And diversity is another area which we need to, because as far as even if we have to, let's say, induct those 20% critical component which I just mentioned, that should also come from diverse sources, because all sources cannot vanish altogether. And therefore, even considering the kind of geopolitical situations which are coming up, because you see, it does impact in a manner that we saw Americans. The moment they delay your engines for the aircraft, your the AMCA project and your the other aircraft project, both their timelines go out of gear. So I think we need to be Atmanirbhar. There is no doubt about it. The self-reliance is inescapable, and if you are not self-reliant, then it's a weakness.
Indeed.
You are actually subdued to somebody, and therefore I think we need to double down and increase our speed of self-reliance, which already is quite substantial, given the kind of our economy and given the kind of the economic compulsions we have in the country.
Indeed. General Asthana, thank you for joining us. Pleasure as always to talk to you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Right, let's get you some more news here on DD India News Up. President Draupadi Murmu unveiled a bust of Mahatma Gandhi at the Museum of the city of Skopje during her state visit to North Macedonia. Now, she told a gathering that Mahatma Gandhi belonged to India, but his message of truth and non-violence belonged to all humanity. DD India's Aditya Srivastav reports from Skopje.
President Draupadi Murmu and President Gordana Silyanovska-Davkova of North Macedonia unveiled a bust of Mahatma Gandhi at the Skopje Museum on Wednesday. The president expressed confidence that the bust will stand as a lasting symbol of friendship between India and North Macedonia and of the common commitment of both countries to peace, tolerance, and humanity. Addressing the gathering, President Murmu expressed confidence that the bust will stand as a lasting symbol of friendship between India and North Macedonia and of the common commitment of both countries to peace, tolerance, and humanity.
Mahatma Gandhi belongs to India, but his message belongs to all humanity. His life demonstrated that truth and non-violence are not signs of weakness, but powerful instruments for securing justice, dignity, and freedom. This bust will stand as a lasting symbol of the friendship between the India and North Macedonia and of our common commitment to peace, tolerance, and humanity. I am confident that our cultural and people-to-people ties will continue to deepen in the years ahead.
In her address, the North Macedonian president said that the most important part of Mahatma Gandhi's legacy is his philosophy of non-violence.
The most important Gandhian legacy is the idea of non-violent self-determination as the right of a people to decide on their destiny and future, but also the freedom to organize their lives in accordance with their own will. This desire for freedom was a centuries-old ideal of the Indian, but also of the Macedonian people.
President Murmu also thanked the government of North Macedonia and the Museum of the City of Skopje for making the event possible. On behalf of the people of India, the President expressed appreciation to everyone who contributed to the tribute and said the occasion would further strengthen mutual understanding, cooperation, and friendship between the two countries, while keeping Mahatma Gandhi's ideals alive. Earlier, President Murmu, along with President Gordana Silyanovska-Davkova, visited the memorial of Mother Teresa in Skopje. Mother Teresa was born in Skopje, where she lived until 1928.
The statue of Gandhi unveiled by the President of India in Skopje will not only reflect the relations between the two nations, but also strengthening the trust and morality between the two nations in the future. With camera person S.Jaishankar, DD India, Skopje.
President Murmu will reach Romania on Thursday on the last leg of a European tour after visiting Moldova and North Macedonia. Amid India's growing diplomatic engagement with Europe, this will be the first visit by an Indian president to Romania in more than 3 decades. Romania is a valuable partner in the European Union. With the conclusion of the India-EU FTA, bilateral economic partnership would strengthen further in coming years. DD India's Somesh Patel reports from Bucharest.
India and Romania share a relationship built not only on diplomatic ties, but also on decades of trust, friendship and cooperation. As the global landscape evolves, both the countries are working to expand their partnership across several strategic sectors. Against this backdrop, President Draupadi Murmu's state visit to Romania is being seen as highly significant. During her visit, the President will be holding a courtesy meeting and bilateral talks with Romanian President Nicolae Dan. The discussions are expected to focus on expanding trade and investment, information technology, education, energy, defense cooperation, digital innovation, skill development, and people-to-people exchanges. The two leaders are also expected to exchange views on key regional and global issues. Members of the Indian community in Bucharest are excited to welcome the President.
Many of the industries which are already very strong in Romania, they want to develop with the Indian companies to make the business larger and volume of trade much bigger than between us.
Our President's visit is a new beginning for the relation between India and Romania. Both the countries are looking forward to a very bright future, and this visit will strengthen it.
It's a great news that the Indian President is visiting Romania after 13 years to build on the existing good relationship that India already has with Romania. Wishing her all the best for a great visit.
During the visit, President Murmu will also address the Indian-Romania Business Forum, where business leaders from both the countries will explore new investments and trade opportunities. The forum is expected to give fresh momentum to bilateral economic cooperation. The President will also interact with members of the Indian community in Romania. The engagement is expected to further strengthen cultural ties and reinforce the people-to-people relationship between the two countries. At a time when India's partnership with Europe continues to deepen, President Murmu's visit is being viewed as the beginning of a new chapter in India-Romania relations. The visit is expected to further reinforce the shared commitment of both the countries towards trust, cooperation, and inclusive growth.
After more than 13 years in Indian President in visiting Romania, President Draupadi Murmu's state visit marks a new chapter in India-Romania relation, with focus on trade, investment, education, technology, and defense cooperation. With camera person Vardhan, I am Dr. Somesh Patel, DD India, Romania.
The third day of the monsoon session of Parliament was washed out too. Despite the government assuring Parliament that it was ready for discussion, the opposition led by the Congress party refused to allow any business to be transacted in both houses on the NEET paper leak issue. DD India's Vishal Baristo reports.
Parliamentary logjam continued in the third day of the monsoon session. Both the lower house and upper house witnessed repeated adjournment due to ongoing protest and sloganeering. Lok Sabha saw repeated disruptions. When the House met after the second adjournment at 2 p.m., the opposition again started sloganeering over the NEET issue. Amid uproar, the reports of the Standing Committee on Coal, Mines and Steel was presented in the House. Besides, the House passed a resolution to suspend Trinamool Congress MP Kalyan Banerjee for the rest of the monsoon session for using inappropriate language against women MPs.
श्री कल्याण बनर्जी का इस सभा के सदस्य का सत्र की शेष अवधि के लिए सभा की सेवा में निलंबित किया जाए.
Earlier, when the Lok Sabha assembled for the day at 11 a.m., Speaker Om Birla tried to take up the question hour, but the opposition member raised the issue of paper leak and student protest. Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiren Rijiju said the government is fully prepared for a discussion on the NEET paper leak issue.
कि चर्चा कब होना है, चर्चा का ड्यूरेशन कितना लंबा चर्चा होना है और किस नियम के तहत होना है. माननीय स्पीकर महोदय, सारे पार्टी के फ्लोर लीडर से बातचीत करके इसका निर्णय किया जाए. सरकार पूरी तरह से नीट पेपर लीक पे चर्चा करने के तैयार है और इस देश के युवाओं को भविष्य के लिए हम सब मिलकर के एक सार्थक चर्चा हो, ये सरकार चाहती है.
Congress leader K.C. Venugopalan and Samajwadi Party leader Akhilesh Yadav raised the issue of student protest. Scenes were no different in the upper house, the Rajya Sabha. The opposition continued raising slogans over the NEET issue. Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiren Rijiju said that the government has been ready for discussion from day one. Leader of the House in Rajya Sabha, J.P. Nadda, termed opposition's conduct as highly irresponsible and against democratic values.
सरकार हर मुद्दे पर चर्चा करने के लिए तैयार है और इसके साथ साथ नीट में पेपर लीक और उससे निकलने वाली सारी गतिविधियों पर भी हमारी सरकार चर्चा करने के लिए तैयार है.
Amid uproar by opposition, the upper house was adjourned till Thursday.
The India Bloc MPs held a protest right here at the Makar Dwar even before the proceedings had started. Though the government has made it very clear that it is ready to discuss the NEET paper leak issue in both houses of the parliament, but the opposition refuses to relent. With cameraman Naveen from Parliament House in Delhi, this is Vishal Baristo for DD India.
Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan addressed a two-day conclave of state and union territory education ministers in New Delhi on Wednesday to review the centrally sponsored schemes of the Department of School Education and Literacy. On the occasion, the minister stressed the need to include subjects such as skills, physical education and arts for the holistic development of an individual.
हमारे प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी कहते हैं हमारी डिग्री और सर्टिफिकेट जितना महत्वपूर्ण है, कॉम्पिटेंसी उससे ज्यादा महत्वपूर्ण है. स्किल बेस्ड एजुकेशन इस बार एनईपी ने कहा है व्यक्ति को होलिस्टिक डेवलपमेंट के लिए साइंस, मैथमेटिक्स, सोशल साइंस, लैंग्वेज के अलावा स्किल, फिजिकल एजुकेशन और आर्ट, ये तीनों विषयों को भी पढ़ने की आवश्यकता है.
Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma on Wednesday visited Teok in Jorhat district to review the flood situation and assess the condition of people taking shelter at relief camps. He said that priority was being given to carrying out rescue operations quickly and safely. Earlier, the Chief Minister reviewed the flood situation at Betbari in Shivsagar district using a speedboat. He said rescue operations were continuing in several parts of Shivsagar while relief camps remained operational to assist the affected people. And staying in the northeast, in Sikkim, rescuers have located 8 more bodies inside the collapsed tunnel at Samardung in Namchi district. With this, the death toll has risen to 13. Initial reports indicate that at least 25 people remain trapped inside the tunnel. Rescue teams have been unable to recover the newly located bodies because of hazardous conditions inside the tunnel. Officials say that poor visibility and methane gas leakage continue to hamper operations. Teams from the NDRF, the SDRF, Sikkim police and mining experts pumped out water from the tunnel on Wednesday. The 8 bodies are located about 2 kilometers from the tunnel entrance. Officials of the Sikkim government and the NHPC are closely monitoring the rescue operations. The government has disabled 50 OTT platforms from public access in India over the last 2 years for displaying obscene content and violating the provisions of the Information Technology Act and other applicable laws. In a written reply in Parliament, Minister of State for Information and Broadcasting L. Murugan said the government has notified the Information Technology Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code Rules 2021 on 25th February 2021 under the IT Act of 2000 to put in place an institutional mechanism for publishers of current affairs on digital media and publishers of online curated content on OTT platforms. Part 3 of the rules provides for a code of ethics for digital news publishers and publishers of online curated content on OTT platforms. Complaints are addressed under the provisions of the IT Rules 2021. Section 79(3)(b) of the IT Act provides for notification to the intermediaries for removing and/or disabling access to unlawful content. Based on complaints, the government regularly takes action against such intermediaries and OTT platforms. The government has disabled 50 OTT platforms for public access in India in the last 2 years for displaying obscene content and for violating the Sections 67 and 67A of the IT Act, Section 294 of the BNS and Section 4 of the Indecent Representation of Women Prohibition Act of 1986. And with that as a wrap, you can get the latest news on our mobile app. Scan the QR code to download it. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran from all of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.